So, you're afraid of getting into a fight. And considering all the risks involved, I don't really blame you. When you actually get into a fight, it can feel like 1.5 million things are running through your mind all at the same time. What if I freeze up? What if I get knocked out? What if I get hurt? And even in a very base, primal sense, what if the dude's bigger than me? Because size is not just about intimidation, it plays a real, effective role in the outcome of what could happen. But as far as what we can do about this feeling of nerves, anxiety, and genuine fear, well, nothing. Because this sense of fear is one of the most fundamental parts of our programming. In other words, it keeps us smart. It helps us to think rationally when we are in intense situations or think decisively in how to avoid them altogether. But let's say you still end up in a fight, and for some reason this video is what comes out of your lizard brain as your sense of direction and what to do. How are we going to tackle this? Let's start by attacking this from two different sides. What if you're attacked, like in a street fight? Well, the good news is your nerves don't really have a lot of time to kick in. An altercation can occur in a matter of seconds to minutes, and the less time it takes, the less time you have to get inside your own head. The biggest thing we need to do here is keep an eye on our surroundings. In a random fight, any schmuck can decide they want to jump into the altercation, especially if you look like you're winning and they have no idea why the fight began, so you kind of look like you're the attacker. And now you're the one who gets kicked in the head for trying to stop some dude from stealing your chia pet. And secondly, you don't want to stick around and beat the guy to a bloody nothing. Your job at that point is to survive, so your goal should be to do enough damage to safely get away without the risk of getting attacked a second time. Staying too long could invite other people into the fight, which you probably don't want, or you might actually do too much damage and now you're the one facing criminal charges. It's a messed up world, I know, but it is what it is and we need to learn how to live in it. So you need to do what you need to do and then get out of there. Similar to our second scenario, which is competitive fighting. Now in this scenario, you have no choice but to accept that you're gonna have nerves. These fights can be set up months in advance, which means you have a long time to build up anxiety and build up that monster in your head of what your opponent's gonna be like. The only upside to this being that your opponent is likely going through the same exact thing. And just like the last one, there's really only two great things you can do to help yourself in this scenario. Number one is you can be training in the style of which you're going to be fighting in as often as you can. Consistency makes and breaks fighters. Are you training every day? Are you running every day? Are you eating right every day? Because if you're not, you got to imagine that your other guy is, which means he's going to have a leg up in that fight, which of course piles on the amount of anxiety you're probably going to be feeling. And of course guilt for, not having done your part. So doing right by your future self is really key here. If you want to do well and react appropriately in the fight, then you have to train that way. And number two is to have a good before fight prep. And I don't mean by like a fight camp kind of prep, but day of, you've already weighed in, you've got a chance to eat. What are you going to do to mentally prepare yourself to punch some other dude in the face in about, 30 minutes? For me, a good before fight prep has been to burn out a little bit before my match and catch my second win somewhere in the middle of round one. It might not sound all that conducive to be kind of tired going into the fight, but there's some advantages to having worked out a little bit before your match. A big one is it helps you get in a better mindset.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
It's that feeling of, you wake up in the morning, you've had a crappy day, crappy night, you don't want to go to training, but you make yourself, and by the time you're done with it, you feel like a beast and you can take on literally everyone on the planet at once. There's actually a chemical for this sensation, and I don't believe it's dopamine, it's something else. I think it starts with a C. I'll write it on the screen, but you kind of get the idea. This just happens to you by nature of what you're doing with your training. This is why you see fighters start warming up before their match. You never want to go into a fight cold. You'll be slow, stiff, and more prone to injury. Versus if you just warm up beforehand, you can feel great and of course be less of a risk to yourself. But the bottom line is you can't get rid of that anxiety. Whether you start a fight in a matter of seconds or you have to wait 3 months before you guys actually throw down, it's going to be there. That's human nature. And that's normal. Like it's an intelligent being kind of problem, you know what I mean? Like if you're super dumb and don't know any better, you won't be afraid of fights because you won't be worried about the consequences. Because you're a highly intelligent being that has been evolving for millions of years, you have a highly intelligent problem, which is you recognize when something can hurt you. And that terrifies us. There's no shame in fear. Everyone has it, from the guy who's never trained a day in his life to the highest level of a professional fighter. Everyone deals with the same problem. It's just that if you do train, you learn how to mitigate that feeling and conduct yourself in a more professional manner, which means the risk of someone punching you in the nose freaks you out less than the guy who's never had to experience that before. In any case, I hope this puts your mind at ease and gives you a little bit of an idea of what to do if you do find yourself in a fight or if you look forward to competing at some point in your future. And if you're not worried about either one of these things because you don't intend to compete and you don't think you're ever going to get in a street fight, then thank you for sticking around to the end anyways. That's the kind of dedication that I'm talking about.